Welcome to another Buy the Dips, Sell the Rich video. Today is Sunday, and boy, are we excited to lock in after the crazy fluctuation we've had for the last 2 weeks. It's been kind of crazy, and some tokens are just not going to survive, guys. But today we're going to take a look at some tokens that have the possibility of not only making it out of this kind of debacle of market dump and market going up, it's just kind of crazy, and some tokens that are kind of just up and coming and they're brand new. So if you like how that sounds, hit a like button. Also, don't forget, guys, if all these videos actually help you guys from the previous weeks, make sure that you guys lock in right now, because some of these dips that we actually call them as the dip is happening before we get to Sunday on the Bolts Alpha. Like, for example, we're going to take a look at one today where we got a beautiful entry just because people were locked in on Bolts Alpha and they were able to get the dip really, really nicely, and now they're up. So you guys don't want to miss those opportunities. Bolts Alpha's where to go, link is down below. So let's start with the first one, guys, and we're going to take a look at Arena now. Speaking of Arena, how many of you guys were on the live stream on Thursday when we actually looked at this coin? And we kind of saw like around right here. Like, look at that. Like around, like it was like here, 200, ripped all the way to 4 mil. Beautiful, beautiful coin. But right now, I think this has a very, very bullish potential of actually doing pretty well. As far as entries concerned, I'm going to give you 3 entries now. This one, since it's a relatively coin, it's a little bit harder to kind of navigate exactly where the coin's going to dip to and where it's going to hold, just because it's just such a newer coin, okay? Now, with that being said, guys, all of this is not financial advice. This is what I'm doing to trade and make some money. So hopefully you guys are able to lock in here. And let's get started. So right now, the ideal dip right here, this is going to be your first layer, which is going to be like 2.5. That looks right now like a solid entry where it's just kind of holding that range right there. And I think eventually this does kind of bounce back up to chest all-time highs, and it'll probably go a little bit higher. Now, my ideal entry where I kind of want to be like, okay, this is where I'm going to start accumulating, if you're not in this play, would be 2 million, okay? That's kind of like where you're like, okay, that is the dip I want. And that is the dip where I'm going to get in. Theoretically, sometimes, depending on the way, because right now it's very hard to predict the market, someone could come and say the T word, it'll come back down again. We could have a crazy liquidation, and it'll come back down. So I'm going to set a couple more parameters for this, and they usually do. I just kind of want to have 2 of them. But if for some reason we get something weird that happens in the market, I do see it maybe retracing down to 1.5, and that would be like the optimal entry. But right now, it looks like 2.5 is like a very solid entry here. I do think it tests all-time high, which was 4.7. I think this does go pretty high. It gives you a chance for a nice little 2x here from 2.5 to 5 mil. But ideally, I would want that 2 mil entry. This is a really good coin. I think eventually more people are going to find it. I think a lot of people are kind of like, don't even know what it is. So hopefully this picks up and, it gets a little bit more traction, which I think it will. But right now, those are like the main 3 entries that we're looking here with the Arena, Alpha Arena, all right? The next one we'll be taking a look at is, guys, you guys know I've been telling you guys about Labubu, 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 Labubu. And I've been saying like one Halloween, towards Christmas is going to take off. Right now, it's kind of like bottom, right? 3.3 mil, kind of like what we've been telling you guys. This is like the ideal deal entry was at this 3.4. It's deep. It's actually dipping right now to 3.3 again. Usually, ideally with this coin right here, it's like one of those coins where it's like, this is as low as it's going to get. If it goes any lower, it's over, okay? If it doesn't go any lower, it just kind of stays here with this 3.3, 3 point, I don't even think it'll reach like 3.23 million around there. If it goes anything below 3 mil, it's kind of like over, okay? If it just stays on this range, it's like kind of balancing from 3.3 and it goes back to 3.4 and 2.3, 3.4. Like right now, this is like the entry, right? So it puts us at this 2.3 here. It's kind of like where it's kind of been hovering around. If you buy right here, okay, or you get in at this particular part, it can't go any lower. If it goes any lower, it's pretty much over. Now, the upside on this is like, if we're right on thesis where we're like, okay, well, it's going to go up during Halloween and it's going to go up during Christmas. I mean, if it were even, not even to go all-time high, I'm not saying it's going to go to like 80 mil. It could possibly do it. But if we're able just to even test 3, that that 30 mil range is still a 10x. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get a 10x out of this one, but ideally, I do think we at least get a 2x on this. So, this is pretty much bottomed out. That's the reason I'm mentioning it. It can't go any lower. If it goes lower than 30 mil, it's pretty much over. So we just want to make sure we keep an eye on this one for sure. The next one we're taking a look at is a brand new coin called Buidl. And this one has me a little bit puzzled, has me a little bit very, very intrigued on it, because it had a crazy surge from 600 all the way to 4 mil. It's holding really, really nicely around this 4 mil range, and you're probably wondering what would be the ideal entry for this. Now, the thing with this one right here, which is pretty interesting, is this entry of 1.5. What I would like to see is, I would definitely love to see this to come down back here. I doubt that it comes back here, but I think eventually, which is that 2.7, 2.5 range, I do think maybe we see 3 mil again. If we see 3 mil, that's where I'll probably start accumulating. I think right now it's on the upside. I think this is going to, look, I don't know, but I think this is a very, very interesting coin, okay? Right now it's at 4 mil. Of course, I would never tell you to buy in green, but you do want to see what happens if it comes down to 3.5. I would say anything between 3.5 and 3 mil would be a really good place to kind of test it out if it comes out to that area, because you would definitely want to accumulate this. I do think if what I'm seeing and what I think it's going to happen with this coin, I do think that would be a very good entry, okay? But it's one that you definitely want to keep an eye on, all right? The next one we're taking a look at is called USDUC. Now, this had a crazy run, almost to like 80 mil. It came back down. Right now, it's kind of coming down to where I would consider the base level, which is this kind of like 16 mil range, 15 mil range here. And that's where you kind of want to keep an eye on it. That's the reason we're looking at this one, is just because it's kind of coming down to that floor area level right here of this 16 mil. And last time it went down here, it ran up to 30 mil, so that gave us a nice little 2x. So potentially, if it does come up to this down, if it comes down here, let me erase this one here. If it does come down to this range here, potentially another 2x bump here, and maybe it comes in and tests that 45 mil range share, which would give you a nice little 3x, but you kind of want to wait for it to come down here to this 16 or 15 mil range. That's where you're kind of looking at to kind of start accumulating and pick it up, okay? The next one we're taking a look at is Pecule, and this is one that we actually caught in Bolt's Alpha as the dip was happening. I was like, yo, guys, alert, alert, alert. This is getting a major dip at 16, 15 mil. Now is the time to kind of jump into it, right? So we got Pecule right after the dump. This is after the market issue that happened early in the morning. I think it was Thursday or Friday. We had this crazy dip. A lot of people were able to take advantage of this on the Bolt's Alpha, and you know, it kind of ran up all the way to 23 mil from that 15. So I kind of got that like 60% range. Ideally, I do think this kind of goes back and tests all-time high. So this 15 mil range is going to be godsend basically if it does what we think it does, because at 45, that's basically giving us a nice 3x right here, and we would be pretty solid. Now, if it gets to 60, that would be a 4x, which I think potentially this coin does rip, and it does pretty well. This is a very interesting coin that I've been telling you about this kind, guys, since 600K, okay? I told you at 600K, I told you at 1 mil, told you at 2 mil, told you at 3 mil, told you even where it was bottom here at 3 mil. It had a crazy run, but I think the run's out over from this one, so definitely one that you want to keep an eye on. The next one we'll be looking at, guys, is Dupe. As you guys know, I've been pretty adamant about Dupe, and I've been telling you guys Dupe. So hopefully you guys have been paying attention since 570K. Been telling you about this at 570K, 2 mil, 3 mil, 15 mil, 16 mil, 4 mil. So I've been telling you guys about this coin quite often now. What I'm looking for this corner here, as you see, it's kind of been playing around with this 8 mil and then bouncing back up. Eventually, this is the thing with this coin. Personally, not financial advice, I think anything under 20 mil is it's like a really good entry. But of course, I want you guys to get the idealist entry possible. Right now it's at 10. And eventually, I don't know if it's going to come down back to 8, but 8 would be a pretty good entry. But the most solid entry would probably be the 6 mil range, okay? If it does come down to the 6 mil range, this is where I would take a big position on it. If it doesn't come down to the 6 mil range, but it does come down to like this 8 mil, potential 7 mil range, that's where I would accumulate a little bit. But what we want to see is we want to see it break this barrier of 17 mil, right? Like 17, million. If it breaks that barrier, we could see 27 very soon. So depending on where you get in, even if we were to get in at 10, you still have a potential for a 2x, 3x. And I think this coin's just like, I don't think it's like, we haven't even seen what this coin's going to do yet. So Dupe is one that I'm definitely paying attention to very, very often. The next one we're taking a look at is useless. And the reason why we mentioned useless is because I told you this about this coin is 2 million. And I think I'm going to be dead on and saying this is going to be one of the coins that does very, very well this Q4. But the reason we're looking at it is because we had this crazy that the what 400 came back to 200, it ran up to 240. So that was a nice clean 2x. And these are like those type of coins where it's like, if I put my money in there, it's a little bit kind of like I could go to sleep and I'm not going to be like, oh my God, and it's gracious, it's over, like, just dumped on me, It's one of those coins where you could kind of sleep a little bit comfortable because they're going to have this major, major dump if anything were to happen, and it has that potential recovery. So what I'm looking for here is possibly, guys, the reason I mentioned is possibly we get it touch 200 again, and that is where I would consider getting in. Right now it's at 285. It's still, I mean, it could get a floor at 285 and then run up a little bit higher. Theoretically, with a big pour, even if you were to get a 50%, still pretty solid, 50 to 80%, pretty solid return. But ideally, what I want to see is an entry here below 250. That's what I'm looking at. If there's anything that I get, it could get a nice entry below 250. I think potentially we still see a 2x potential here with a really decent amount of size. But you're going to want to make sure you're paying close attention to this. And of course, if you guys are in bull self, I'll let you guys know. But you want to make sure you're paying as much attention as you possibly can to this one, because if it does zip below these ranges, I think you still have that potential of a nice, clean 2x, all right? The next one we're looking at is this one, Tokabu. I've been mentioning this a lot, and it was a 7. It came back to 17. So you guys had a nice little 2x or not. Right now, it's kind of just playing with that 10 mil, 9 mil range. Ideally, if it comes back to 7, that is where I would be considering maybe getting back in if you got out for the first initial push for that 2x, 3x, and you kind of want to re-enter that. That's where I'm kind of going to be looking at to see if there's a potential re-entry for this one. Because I do think this one still has a little bit more legs to go. I don't think it's going to go to break all-time high, but I do think it has a potential that 2 to 3x there if you're looking at it, okay? The next one we're looking at, guys, is Uranus, and this one right here. Once again, very interesting coin, crazy dip when the market did at 11 mil, ran up to 33 mil, so nice little 3x here. Right now it's holding this 20 mil range. Ideally, 15 mil is where I kind of want to enter this one. Like if they would come down here to a 15 mil range right around here, 15 or 16 mil, that is where I kind of pay attention to this one, because it's like, okay, a possibility of a nice little 2x here. I don't think it's completely over. Maybe it retests all-time high, but eventually I do think we kind of play around with that 40 mil range here. So that 15 mil range, if it does give us that nice entry, that's kind of where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of position on this one and do pretty well. The last one I want to mention is PFP. I still think this one had a really bad turn of events in the sense that it was doing pretty well. It was holding a beautiful floor. And then we got the crazy liquidation event. It kind of sustained that. It was like, ugh. It kind of sustained that round. I was like, I got this. But then we got another liquidation event this week, and it kind of came down to 1.2. And, sometimes when it's like newer coins, it's a little bit harder for them to hold that ground just because they don't have that big community. They don't have that big and massive whales that are locked into the coin. But it didn't drop below 1 mil, which was pretty impressive. And I was like, hey, if it's able to hold that 1 mil range, there's decent amount of holders and people that believe in this coin. So right now it's at 1.3. It's come down to 1.2. I think if it comes down to 1.2 again, even that 1.3 or anything up below 1.4, okay? Anything below 1.4 or 1.5, I think it's a nice ideal entry. Potentially this does reverse, and I do see it, like if it does reverse, I do think it breaks all-time high, which is like on like 8 to 9 mil. I think we do see that. So potentially you could get like an 8x to a 7x if this has some potential of reversing. I've seen coins do crazy stuff when it comes to this, but this is one that I'm keeping an eye on because the entry's decent enough where I could probably risk a little bit, like, even if I were to get like a stop loss of 30%, negative 30, I'm willing to take that risk because the upside is like a nice 9 to 5, even like a 5x, I think maybe is doable with this one. So one that I'm definitely keeping an eye on, and I think Hopefully it reverses very soon. And that's the one I'm looking at. A quick example I could give you of something that happened. Got my hair. To kind of give you an idea of what what happened is, look what happened with Trencher, guys. You guys remember? This happened and ran up to 9 mil. It came down to like that's 1.5 bill range, and then it had a crazy run back to 9. So that's kind of like what I see with the same potential with the PFP there. And interesting coin nonetheless. So hopefully we do see that reverse upside again with that coin. So hopefully you guys are locked in, and those are the ones I think that are going to do pretty decent either this week or the coming weeks. If I'm pretty sure though, guys, I could almost kind of be very locked in that there's going to be a coin that's going to run pretty crazy. And if you don't want to miss that coin, I'm telling you right now, Bolts Alphas, where you want to look in, Discord link is down below. We stream every Tuesday and Thursdays where we give you guys a 2x, 3x, even a 10x every single stream. So make sure you guys lock in. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.